Governor Doyle formed his climate change task force, and out of that emerged the Clean Energy Jobs Act and 25 by 25 goal and alternate energy sources. The legislation is water under the bridge now, but tell us your views on what the state needs to do on energy and emissions and other pollutants. And does the state's reliance on coal concern you? And do you believe the climate change threat is real?
A number of different interesting choices. Well, you're right. The bill that Jim Doyle and Tom Barrett supported, even though Barrett said it needed to be changed, but the core elements of it he still supported. In fact, he even told Wist Politics he'll push for as the next governor, I think are dangerous to Wisconsin. You look at any number of independent reports that showed we could lose up to 43,000 jobs if that was fully implemented. We can't afford to lose 43 jobs, and particularly in the industries, the paper industry, farming, manufacturing, those are things that would have been devastated by the governor's proposal. In this case, I believe it would have increased the amount of the cost for individuals in terms of fuel and energy in the state, and it certainly would have a devastating impact on our employers. Now, I was raised down in Delavan. I had the honor of being an Eagle Scout there, and we were always trained as scouts, your campsite should be cleaner when you leave it than when you found it. So I'm all for being green. But to me, being green is about saving green or making green, not taking more green out of my wallet. If you want to be environmentally sustainable, you got to be economically sustainable. What I mean by that is you got to do things. We, for example, at the zoo, and we put in place a conservation and education center years ago we built that was with the Zoological Society that was, it's green. It's LEED certified. It's got a green roof. It's got all the motion sensor lights and that. We did it because it saves us money. It's more cost effective. You make it cost effective for consumers, for individuals, for employers, people are going to be more inclined to do that. If you put a mandate on that costs them more, they're going to look for loopholes and ways to get out of it. Plus, it's going to hurt when it comes to business. So to me, what they were proposing there, going up to 25% for alternative fuels by 2025, is not the answer. Mandating, that's not the answer. Making it easier for us to make that affordable for companies certainly is.
How do you make it easier?
Well, I'll give you an example. A program we already have that I supported years ago in the legislature. There's a small grant program that helps motor carriers, trucking companies, to take and when their guys pull over for the night, when they reach their time limit where they can't drive anymore, they live in their cabs. They have microwaves and TVs and the whole bit. Well, historically, they have to keep the engine rolling if they want to use that. The grant program the state had allowed them to take a small portion of that grant money, apply it to allowing those companies to buy small little generator engines that adapt, that are hooked right onto those cabs, and run all that stuff off of that instead of having the engine. Well, it's a fraction, literally a fraction of the emissions, but more importantly to the motor carrier, it's a fraction of the cost for them to do that. They need a little help. It's a rotating loan, so once it pays off, they rotate it onto the next one and on down the line. To me, those are good things where government can be a partner in doing that, helping them. I was at a company in Racine where they showed me the equipment they had. They got a little help with a match to help put equipment that recovered some of the heat coming off of their engines, off their equipment, and then restore that into recycling that to more cost effective. I think you look at things like Orion Energy up in Manitowoc that has the Apollo, which is a large dome light that draws in sunlight. They can take up to 10 hours worth of sunlight off of a warehouse or a manufacturing floor by using that product. Yet under the current and even under the proposed bill, they wouldn't qualify under the alternative energy portfolio because they don't actually create energy, even though they could save 10 hours of light each day. That shows you how screwy I think the mandate is. What we should be doing is making it easier for companies to tap into things like that, mainly because it saves them money. In the last, I think, 7, 8, 9 years, they told me it saved at Orion. I think that Apollo product saved something like $710 million for the consumers. So.
Does the state's reliance on coal concern you at all?
Well, it concerns me if we do cap and trade because that would hurt us much more so than other places across the country. We need to have a diverse energy source. That means clean burning coal has to be a part of that mix because we have been historically dependent on it, but we should add to that. We should lift the moratorium on nuclear energy, give us another viable option out there. We should continue with wind and solar and other elements out there. We should biomass. Those are all things we can add to that mix, and we can certainly be supportive of promoting, but I just don't think we should be mandating any one of those elements We should be allowing it, providing more opportunities for the market to drive that so that it's economically sustainable as well as environmentally.
And is the climate change threat real?
To me, I worry less about that and more about the impacts it has on employers in this state. I want to manage our natural resources at the same time I balance it with improving our state's economy.
Do you think the science is proven on climate change?
To me, the bottom line is that I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to get into that. My bottom line is I'm going to push for a system as governor, whether it's in the Department of Commerce, the Department of Natural Resources, where I balance those two needs together.
Okay.